just so everyone knows that that's happening. But thank you all for being here for our webinar on rail safety. I want to take a second to remind everyone to keep their microphones muted, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself for those questions at the end. So today we have Jessica Keene and Stephanie Jim, who will be presenting for us on some rail safety information. Jessica Keene is the Executive Director of Operation Lifesaver, which is a nonprofit based in Oregon that's part of an international family of organizations that's devoted to ending traffic collisions, fatalities, and injuries at highway rail crossings. Stephanie Jim is the Safe Routes to School site coordinator for the Alameda County Safe Routes to School program, where they've created rail safety programming. And so she'll be going over some of the programming that they've put together there. So let's start. We'll jump in with Jessica. So yeah, you can take it away, Jessica.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Let's get over with some statistics. So far this year, we have seen a huge increase on pedestrian rail fatalities in Oregon. Most of them have happened in Marion County, and then some in Lynn County, Multnomah County. But so far this year, we have seen 7 fatalities from pedestrians, which is a huge climb from where we're normally at. Normally we're about averaging 4 or 5, maybe an entire year. So the fact that we're only 6 months into the year and we've experienced 7 so far this year is a huge issue. Can you go back a few slides?
Yeah. Do you want me here?
A couple more. Okay. Yep, this is good.
Okay.
So our mission is teaching the 3 E's. We promote 3 E's. Go ahead, sorry.
You're good.
One more. So education, enforcement, and engineer. We believe that education should be free, so we offer a lot of curriculum and ideas and such on our website. There's printables, there's a place for you to request presentation where we'll come to you and talk with a group of people or one-on-one. Enforcement is a little bit different. We don't enforce anything, obviously. We do not however, we do know law safeties, following signs and following the laws around being safe around tracks and trains. And then engineering along with the counties and the state is making sure the cars are safer and proceed and exchange in the world around them. You can go ahead. So education, what it looks like is we don't use scare tactics. We won't discuss incidences that have happened in the area. We don't tell kids or adults or at risk individuals that we don't use the scare tactic to scare them into staying away from the tracks and trains. We use things like look, listen, live. We also use stay off, stay away, and stay safe. So putting those positive things into people's heads sticks with them, and it's creating a positive way to look at keeping them from making it their choice. You can go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, so we use vetted volunteers. I vet them myself. We do things like presentations, schools and their venues, assembly, small groups, classrooms, and a curriculum for all groups. So from school all the way through to adult special needs, we're working on a program for special needs young adults. And all the curriculum is free and printable through our website. We also train first responders, professional drivers, such as school bus drivers and commercial truckers, on how to be safe around tractor trains, as part of what Operation Lifesaver does. Continue. So example of appropriate curriculum, pre-K and kindergarten, we use train and track recognition. So if you see it, you can know what it is. A lot of kids might not live around a track, or they're not sure, where the boundaries lie around tracks. And so being able to recognize these boundaries and where a safe distance is really important to get into a child's head, in the beginning stages. We also use rhymes and sight words recognitions, big, strong, heavy, descriptive to help them understand the dangers around tracks and trains. Shapes and colors will help with the sign recognition. And again, we do use a tactic to teach children or adults. Kindergarten, we do some role playing. One of the favorite things that we do is I line I have one of the kids run at another kid, and they crash into each other, and the one child steps back a few paces, but it's not a big deal. And then I put 5 or 6 kids in a line, and I have all 5 or 6 of those kids run towards that child, and I stand behind them and hold my hands up so they fall backwards. But then they're able to tell me that because of the weight and because of how many kids ran at them, that it was a stronger force that hit them. And so then they're able to understand a little bit more of the difference between if they were to get hit by a car versus if they were to get hit by the train, because there's so much more heavy impact behind a train than a vehicle. So we do role playing like that. We have Sly Fox and Birdie, which is a cartoon that's available on our website. And the kids really enjoy those. And then 3rd through 6th, we incorporate some STEM and STEAM learning. For an example, we had a Boy Scouts group do a Lego demonstration for a competition on education around train safety, which was really cool to see. You can continue. Mm, When we're talking about how to drive safely around tracks and trains, um, we try to get that safety habitual. So habits that are coming to you without actually thinking of having those habits. So staying away from tracks and trains, not crossing in front of a train, not going underneath a train or in between train cars, things such as that. The Trevor's Ed program, we have partnered with ODOT and helped write that. And then we also use appropriate, don't be distracted, don't put your headphones in when you're crossing tracks, don't walk along the tracks, don't put your head down and look at your phone, such as those. Enforcement, you can go to the next slide. So this is what we do with enforcement is we go over all the different kinds of crossings and where it's appropriate to cross, what the signs mean, how you respect. We talked about how a lot of these areas that we're having issues in along that I-5 is like no train horns. So there's a lot of towns, even Salem has a portion of their town that there's no train horns. So the train won't be blowing their horns going across each of the crossings. We talk about the different kinds of crossings, the sounds that they can make, the sounds that they don't have to make. Um, uh, you have to pay attention to each of these signs, and they'll tell you how and when it's safe to cross the tracks. Making safe choices. This is something that we try to instill in the kids at a young age. That way, as they grow, they're still making safe choices for themselves. So, talking about what it means to be legally and illegal when you're crossing tracks, and where the appropriate places are to cross tracks, and why it's important to follow those rules of crossing tracks, especially when there's two trucks right next to each other. Oftentimes you'll watch one train go by and you'll think it's safe, but there's another oncoming train on the other track going the other direction that you totally miss. So we discuss scenarios like that. Um, we discuss who to call if there is somebody on the tracks or a car on the tracks, and that's that little blue sign that you see right there. That is at every single railroad crossing, and a lot of people don't realize that that 1-800 number is the first call you make. You don't call 911, you call that 1-800 number, and then it will have a crossing number on there that the dispatcher that picks up the phone will ask you for, and that will tell them exactly where you are, and they can alert the train. And then you can call 911 after you make that phone call, but that's the first phone call because that's going to be the one that can contact the crew and hopefully avoid an incident from happening. Go ahead. Engineering, like I said, we partner with a lot of different people, ODOT, education, outreach. We brainstorm ways of improving the areas that are trouble in our area, as well as with the times and the changing with technology, we try to help come up with new ideas on how to keep people safe in these situations. So other events that we have done, we've done safety fairs, participated in the Heritage Museum, camp, steam up in Brooks is a big one that we do. We do the camps in OMSI. Whenever you think of an issue that of a certain group of people that this might be an issue with, we're available and we have curriculum to be able to use in some of that. So these are just a few ideas of stuff that we can participate in. Trick or trunk, it's like the trick or treat where you go from the trunk to cars or whatnot. We're happy to participate in events like that. Field day, we love to sponsor water and hand out water at a field day for a school. Just getting us in the schools is important. So some facts is that every 3 hours a train hits a person in the United States. Uh, that unfortunately, and we're not really sure exactly why. We felt like it would be less after the pandemic, but it seems to be growing at a rapid rate. Trains are quieter and faster than you think. Um, a lot of people think, oh, I'll hear a train coming, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. And then a train, depending on the length, they're becoming longer and longer, but the average length of a train can take up to 18 football fields to stop. So that's something that's really important. Go ahead. Um, Contact information if you like to schedule us to come and do a presentation or whatnot. It would either be myself or one of my volunteers. If you have a passion for helping us spread, we welcome you volunteers to come and help spread the word. So you're welcome to reach out, and I appreciate you guys having me today.
So thank you. So we're gonna transition over to Stephanie now. She's gonna present her own, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen really quick. And then Stephanie, you should be able to share now.
Okay, you can see my shared? Perfect.
Yes. All right, let me just get situated here. Hi everyone. So nice to be here. I'll just say I am on vacation mode, all. I am about to actually come up to your very beautiful Oregon coast. So just, I'm so excited. And I think part of that is because I'm about to go on vacation. Um, I would love recommendations, by the way, things to do in Seaside, Oregon. That is not this conversation, obviously. Um, so yes, my name is Stephanie Jim, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Transform program director, a program director at Transform. And I feel like this is work that we've done for quite a while now, presenting rail safety at schools. So I'm just very excited to be here to share a little bit about how the Transform site coordinator team helped to create and deliver rail education to the schools that we serve through the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools program. Okay, so I think just a little history lesson. I wanted to give you some context about Transform and the relationship that this nonprofit has to Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools program, and then also how did Rail Ed become a priority for our program. So Transform is a nonprofit located in Oakland, California, in the Bay Area. And our priority is to support smarter transportation and housing policies in the Bay Area and across California. And so on our team, we have a group of site coordinators who basically we're essentially community health educators. And so we help to implement the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools program by providing site coordination to schools, essentially connecting our schools that are registered in our program. And I think just from here on out, for clarity's sake, our program is the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools program. We are connecting our schools to the services that we offer through our program. Oh, what happened here? There we go. This is just a visual representation of the 290 plus schools that we serve in Alameda County. And so this is just like a good representation of the distribution of schools across our county. All right, so how did rail education become a priority? We really started this because we were responding to the high incidences of fatalities and injuries, serious injuries that happened around railroad properties. The steps that we took to start addressing this issue was to respond to a grant through the Office of Traffic and Safety, OTS. And through this grant, we were able to provide 25 presentations, 25 bike ped rail safety presentations to older adults, and 25 bike ped rail safety presentations to students. And then finally, like to develop the curriculum, we really partnered. We partnered closely with California Operation Lifesaver, OLI, to develop to adopt and adapt the resources that we needed to be specific to the safety needs of Alameda County. Okay, so that kind of history lesson over. Kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, what are the steps that we took to develop rail safety materials and how did we implement it, our curriculum? And so I'll just kind of start by saying, in developing our rail ed materials, we took mostly a three-pronged approach. And so we really looked first at education, kind of going back to, behavior change basics. We really wanted to think about the education that we need to provide to our attendees to help arm them with like the information, the things that you need to know to help keep yourself safe, to make the right choices when you are in railroad crossings. So for example, we really looked at the laws, right? Like, and here what I'm going to do is, so this is what our curriculum looks like. It is adopted and adapted from OLI. We really talked about like railroad property is private property, and being on a railroad tracks or property without permission is trespassing. Sorry.
even if a sign isn't posted. So lifting up laws like that is the first thing that we do. And then we also look at the infrastructure. So like, what are the things that are put in place in our communities to alert us, for example, that we're about to approach a railroad track. So, you know, you can see here, like in our presentation, we highlight the signs that are around roads, and we also kind of highlight, like, this is the paint markings that you'll see, which indicate to you that you're about to cross a railroad track. And then finally, just going back to the presentation, we are also highlighting safety tips as well. I know Jessica talked about 18 football fields. We took that statistic and kind of turned it into soccer fields, because I think soccer is more popular in Alameda County. And so we translated that, and we actually share in our presentations that it takes up to 15 soccer fields to stop a train. 15 soccer fields, that is so much. And so kind of arming with our audience with the facts, the education, we're giving them the tools that they need to make right choices when they are about to cross a railroad track. Okay, then, oh, that's weird. Do you see that? Did it not advance? Nope. Okay, there we go. I don't know if you were seeing that, but it was like, I only saw half of my slide. Okay, so we have the educational facts that we want to uplift. The next thing that we really thought about was messaging. So, you know, this is about, like, how do we make the message, how do we make these facts stick? And so very similar to what Jessica was talking about, we really looked at a bunch of, we first started with slogans that OLI had, they had already made. And so what really resonated with our team, with our program, was see tracks, think train. See tracks, think train. The alliteration is really catchy, it's short, it's sweet, it's easy for people to just like latch onto. And so we wove that message throughout a lot of our presentations, and you'll see in a lot of our incentives and promotional materials. And then in addition to uplifting a slogan, we also took a lot of our resources and coined them under an Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools campaign, rail safety campaign, which we called Act Safely. So the A stands for always look and listen for trains. C stands for cross only at designated railroad crossings. And T stands for take your time. Never race the train to the crossing or travel along the tracks. And here is an example of what our Act Safely rail safety education page looks like. All of the resources are there. There's a chance to, if you are interested in requesting a presentation, this is also where you could go to request a presentation from one of our site coordinator team members. And just like beyond, you know, what we cover, there's all this other information that you can look up as well about rail safety in Alameda County. Okay, so now we have the educational facts, we've got the messaging. We had to now put it all together. And I think what's really cool about our OTS grant is it was very flexible. We were able to fulfill presentations in so many different formats. We could be in classroom, we could be at a tabling event. And so we really had to design and develop materials that could be flexible in that same way. And so we had our very traditional PowerPoint, which I kind of just showed you quickly just now. That PowerPoint is great for classroom presentations. It's great for, you know, when you're in a community center, very traditional presentation styles. But then sometimes we're in elementary rooms where a PowerPoint, I don't know about you, but my experience working with little kids, PowerPoint is not necessarily the best way to deliver the message. And so we kind of translated that and used the OLI activity sheet. And so here is an example of what that activity sheet looks like. And you can kind of see like, the idea here is you circle the things that aren't correct, and then we have a discussion around each thing that's identified as not safe, right? And then finally, we put all of this, like after our presentation is done, we wanted to make sure that people took away the facts. And so we have fact sheets both for students and for adults. And what you see here are the fact sheets for kids. And then part of putting it together, as well as the incentives, we were able to purchase stickers, branded stickers, zipper pulls, bike lights. We also were able to purchase bike helmets, but that's because the OTS grant is about bike, pedestrian, rail safety. But these incentives were just such a great way to complement the in-classroom presentations and all of our tabling events. You think about like, how do we make that message stick? An incentive goes a really long way. We had a sticker that was branded with the C tracks think train. It's just like a wonderful way to reinforce that message, and they're fun. All right, so I mentioned this before. I am a community health educator at heart. It would be remiss of me to not include a moment in my presentation where I do a check for knowledge, right? So pop quiz time, folks. And what you can do is you can just drop your answer into the chat. You can say them out loud. Either way is fine. How many soccer fields does it take to stop a train? Okay, I think I see the chat popping up. 15, amazing.
100%.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, A's all around, right? A pluses even. So thank you so much for kind of playing along. It's great to see that folks like got it. And I hope it also gives you a taste of how we kind of wrap all of the information that needs to be shared, how we, message the information, and how we kind of put it all in some kind of a design to make the information stick. And really, like, if I walk away from a presentation knowing that students remember it takes 15 soccer fields for a train to stop, I am so happy. Okay, so, we've got our materials developed. What next? It's time to implement and really consider the needs of the community, the needs of the program. And so the first consideration that I wanted to talk through was branding. We, like I had said before, like we really worked, we collaborated, we leaned heavily on OLI to develop our resources. And these are some of the resources that are available on our webpage. These are slides that you'll all get later on, so you can have access to all the links that are here. Nonetheless, like once you kind of click through them, you'll kind of see like how we were able to weave our, Act Safely campaign with the OLI information about how to stay safe. And then, like, how did we make sure to recognize OLI and all of our other partners alongside our program, whether it's through logos or, any other ways that is important to recognize where information comes from. And so I just wanted to share, like, this is how we balance like our needs and also like recognizing our partnerships, our very important partnerships that helped us to create the information that's being delivered. And then I also kind of have talked about, our OTS grant was about bike, pedestrian, rail safety. And that was another really important consideration for us to think through as we're doing presentations. The OLI content is really about rail safety. And yeah, they talk a little bit about bike and pedestrian safety, but it's only bike and pedestrian safety related to rail safety, right? Like when you're crossing tracks as a pedestrian, you cross the tracks where it says that you cross as a pedestrian. but there's so much more to bike and ped safety that, you know, the Safe Routes to School scope covers. And so we just had to be very intentional and thoughtful, you know, when we are going to talk about bike and ped safety, when it doesn't relate to rail safety, like we just had to make that distinction between like when one program starts and one program ends and the other program starts, if that makes sense. And that was just like, the way that we thought about it was, it's almost like modules, right? You go into a presentation and you start off by saying like, oh, we are here first to talk about bike pedestrian safety. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about rail safety, something that we, you know, created in partnership with OLI. Okay, this next one is something that was definitely came up. The other consideration that I'm going to talk about is presenting sensitive topics. And I think this was particularly true when going into a elementary school, middle school, high school. And in fact, one of the presentations that our pilot presentation at Tennyson High in Hayward, that school is a school that's located right next to train tracks. And that school has also experienced a few fatalities over the year with students, you know, playing and train in the railroad yards and kind of, you know, just not knowing the facts to keep them safe. And in fact, one of the videos that we wanted to showcase one of the students who passed away from a train fatality. And so just like knowing all of these, the potential for re-traumatizing a student body, like that's not our intention. Our intention is going in there and making sure that we are relaying the facts to keep students safe. We really had to think through how are we going to do this? And so the first thing that we did was we reached out to the school liaison. Our program, the way that we work is we have volunteers, school liaisons, school champions that help to, you know, be our voice to the school. So we worked very hard. We worked closely with the school liaison to kind of have her pre-screen the curriculum and just have her give us what is appropriate, what is not, and really had them drive the language that we would use in our presentation. We also use that opportunity to understand like who's going to be in our audience. Are there going to be siblings of this student who passed away, who's highlighted in the video? And I'll just say like we chose to do the video because and this is back in 2018, folks, so it's a little fuzzy, but I think that it was the impact it was a student specific video, and the impact of that video, we felt like it was going to really deliver that message and make, you know, the reason why we're here stick. Nonetheless, so we really worked hard with that school liaison to understand like who's going to be in the audience. And then we also worked on like, what is that response if a school if a student asks like, oh, this happened to so-and-so, and you know, how are we going to address it? How do we navigate that conversation? Another thing that we did, you know, thinking about presenting sensitive topics, is we thought a lot about creating a disclaimer. Our team never initiated the need to use a disclaimer with students. We kind of waited for schools to say like, do you have a disclaimer that you can use? And that's when we would use the disclaimer. I mean, we're really just relying on schools to lead, you know, lead us through presenting sensitive topics. Okay, and then finally, like I had also mentioned before, we were just so flexible in the way that we were able to deliver our presentations. We had in-classroom presentations, and we had tabling opportunities to deliver the message to both older adults and to students. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the next few slides. My last two slides, they are the highlights. But they give you a better picture of like how we were able to tweak our presentations based on the needs of our communities. And so like, for example, in classroom presentations, here is at Tennyson High School in Hayward, where we presented to that school with the tragedies. We really, another detail is that school has a high immigrant population, high Spanish speaking population. And so we were also, in addition to working closely with the school liaison, on like how to tailor the message so it's more appropriate for the school, we also had the ability to have this presentation translated in Spanish. In the middle, we have Ochoa Middle School. These are students that are actually, their pipeline school is Tennyson High. And so it was really cool to be able to reach students before they got into high school. And this is a PE class that we're presenting at. And then finally, Bay Elementary, which is in San Lorenzo Unified. These are elementary students, and what they're working on, it's not very clear, but I just wanted to try and get a picture of students using the activity sheet to, elementary students using the activity sheet to receive the information that is in the PowerPoint. Okay, and then finally, tabling opportunities. There's so many different ways to do tabling. We use that activity sheet, like you can see in this Niles Canyon Stroll and Roll in Fremont, California. We use that activity sheet as a way to get participants, students engaged. I don't know what your Safe Routes programs look like, but we also have a ton of engagement resources. So we have a trivia wheel, we have a bike blender, and sometimes it's cool to have those kinds of activities alongside, presenting about rail safety. The bike blender in particular is a great way to get kids over. And then once you have their captured attention, you can continue with the message that you're trying to deliver. And then finally, we also have a lot of other educational activities. So I don't know if you probably know about the Bike Mobile. It's our mobile bike repair shop. We often, whenever we saw that a school was having a Bike Mobile repair shop, it just seemed like a great opportunity to set up a tabling event there, because parents are often at these tabling events, at these Bike Mobile events. And so it's like another way to like, oh, hey, parents, while you're waiting for your bikes to get fixed, like, let me talk to you about rail safety. All right, that brings me to the end of my presentation. I know I took up a lot more time than you had budgeted, but
I think we're still like almost exactly on schedule, so this is great.
yeah. So yeah, thank you. I think it's time for questions. And I'm going to stop sharing.
I had one question that came up. You talked about how you went from a middle school, was it Ochoa was the middle school to Tennyson? It kind of made me curious what your like goal as far as the cadence for rail safety within your district is. Are you trying to hit kids at elementary, middle, and high school? No?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think in a perfect world, yes. And I think in this case, it worked out perfectly. But I think that more often than not, schools are just overwhelmed with, things that they have to meet, testing. It's hard. In an ideal world, yes, but I think in the real world, as it plays out, it's usually just like, are you interested? Please book this. But I will say that at Tennyson, it happens year after year. They're like the one school that we go back and do rail safety at, because they're just like, yes, this is something that we need for our student population. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
The question. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. That wasn't my question. I'm just curious if you think, like, the schools that are doing this over and over, do you think there's any conversation about, like, could the teachers take it on in the future? You've so many schools that you're trying to reach, and you're only, one person or a small group of people.
Yeah. Well, that is a great question, Hannah, because I think that's what we're trying to think through for next year. I think we're trying to shift towards a more train the trainer model. We started it this year, but I think that it is really about teacher capacity. You know, I think that they're being asked to take on so much. But Tennyson High might be that perfect school to like encourage this model because yeah, you're right. Like it's so important to the school. You know, it's a great opportunity for them to take it and make it their own.
Another thing that I was curious about is between like you were saying that at tabling events, you're able to reach some adults as well. And I'm curious with your classroom presentations, is there resources that are available to hand out for students to bring home? And Jessica, I don't know if your organization has those kind of materials as well that get pushed out. And so I don't know if you can touch on that as well, but just curious how we can, if there was a classroom presentation or an assembly type of presentation for the rail safety, how you could still get that adult engagement piece that the tabling provides.
Jessica, do you want to answer first?
Sure. We have, like I said, we have curriculum for all age groups, and we do send curriculum home when we do presentations in school that are more geared towards the parents as well as the age group that we are talking with at the moment. So it goes kind of hand in hand. The thing I like the most when we're doing education for younger students is we have these pledges that they can go online and they fill out these there's 4 questions and it goes with like, oh, what do you do if you see tracks, and then you answer those 4 questions and then you hit submit and it gives you the option to print out the certificate that you've taken this pledge, and it has your name on it and the kids can go home and hang it on the refrigerator, and then it's a constant reminder to them that they've taken this pledge. And when you have somebody that especially young age, that you've promised to do X, Y, and Z, and then you see this reminder hanging on your wall or on your fridge daily, it helps to kind of concrete those habits and those choices that they're making going forward. We have those available in the 4 questions are pre-K, and then it's like kindergarten through 3rd, and then 4th through 6th, and then age 13 and above into adulthood. So we do have a wide scale of materials that we're able to reach all age groups.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's not necessarily, we don't have the capacity to print, to provide a letter, or like, we have those fact sheets that I had mentioned. And I think what we do is we will, after the fact, send to the school liaison, like, oh, thank you for having us. Here's some more information. Like, it would be great if you could distribute this to parents. But like what I would, in an ideal world, like it would be really great if we could provide those, like a copy for each parent, each student to take home. We just don't have the capacity to, you know, print that much and have one handout for every student.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to ask Stephanie and Jessica while we have them?
I don't have a question, but just I'm newer to the Safe Routes program, and I just appreciated hearing this perspective because we are on train tracks, and our Max, like our also uses tracks as well, and so I just hadn't really considered that before, because again, I'm pretty new to this. So yeah, just thank you. Thank you so much.
You.
I guess kind
Can
of,
I add something really quick?
yeah, absolutely.
I also wanted to touch on, our program sponsored a baseball team in Gresham this last year at Gresham High. And what that entailed is we sent X amount of money, and we had a very large banner printed, and that banner is hanging on the outside of their fence. So when people drove by it, they also see that think train or see track think train message, and to stay off tracks and not to be distracted around the tracks. And so that's another way that we're able to hit more than just the students and the age group, is having things like that around the schools, posted on the walls, posted on the fence lines, things like that. And I love it because we're able to also give back to the community in sponsoring the baseball field and the baseball team during the next 3 years is what that's doing. And so I love type of outreaches is where when we can give back to the community as well as getting the message out there to a very large group number of people.
That's awesome. That's a great way to hit that adult engagement piece as well. Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, do either of you have anything else you want to say just to wrap up here before we move into general safe routes announcements?
Yeah, I guess if it's okay, I was just I kind of said this, but we did this rail safety stuff back in 2018, like developing all the materials. And it was it was such an interesting experience going back in time, so many years. And I was the person at Bay Elementary and just like digging up those photos. I just had such a great memory of being in that classroom and just like talking to students about trains. Students love trains. I have a son, he's obsessed with trains. And it's just like, it was such a cool experience to wrap that interest and bring something about like safety and positivity into the classroom. It was it was such a powerful experience, such a positive experience. And even now that it's been like how many years? 5? I don't know. 6. What is right. But like I'm still reminded of like how much fun that day was at Bay Elementary. So I just wanted to make a plug for rail safety is fun safety.
And Stephanie, I appreciate you so much and working with OLI. I think that that's amazing. And I love to see our program be extended into other programs in the way that you're using it. So I appreciate you and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for a great presentation too.
Likewise.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you both. I think just as Abigail was saying, this is a great additional perspective to add to safe routes and the tradition or we're so focused on the bike and pedestrian safety that this is a great thing to add and try to integrate, but then also, as you were saying, you like want to integrate it, but also make sure that it's its own separate thing. And all of the resources that you both shared in your slides are super helpful, and I will make sure to help pass along all that information to everybody after this webinar. So thank you both so much for being here and for taking the time to go through all of this with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So to wrap up here, we've got some announcements just for some statewide safe route stuff. We will be having hub meetings in July. The topic is still TBD, just to keep you on your toes and keep you checking your email. The ODOT Safe Routes to School Competitive Construction Grant Part 2. So if you apply for Part 1, Part 2 is open through July 31st. We are not going to be having a July webinar. So our next webinar will be in August, on August 20th. That again is still TBD. So we'll be sending out more information about that. The National Safe Routes to School Conference is coming up in October. I believe the early bird pricing ends June 30th. So if you're planning on going to that, make sure that you register to save, I think it's at least $100 if you register before the 30th. And then finally, we've got the ODOT Innovation Mobility Program microgrants. The cycle 2 is open until November 29th, just to keep that on your radar. But with that, thank you all so much for being here today. If you have any, I'll be sending out a follow-up email to everybody with resources as well as contact information for both of our speakers if you have follow-up questions and want to start getting some rail safety incorporated into your Safe Routes curriculum. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in August.
Thank you.
Bye.